Hey guys, welcome back to the Texture Creature project. So at this point you should have something that looks like this. All right, we started with our oval method, which you can still see on my drawing, and then we used a contour line to create a descriptive outline around the outer edge of the animal. At this point, if you haven't already, you should also add any inner features, right? So your eyes, mouth, nose, anything like that should be added now. And then we're going to get started on the texture. So I'm just going to add the rest of this chicken's waddles here. And I think that's all I need. All right, so, oh, my chicken looks angry. Anyways, all right, so, so here I've got my chicken camel, and we're going to start adding some texture. So let me start with the fur. All right, so this is a fairly common texture that a lot of you, if not most of you, have some fur in your drawing. Certainly, different fur can have different textures. Some animals have longer fur, some animals have shorter fur. But in general, you're going to be using short little lines. The trick here is that you're not going to cover the entire animal with those short little hairlines. What I want you to do is similar to how we did the pointillist landscape, right? I want you to look for only the darkest areas, right? You're going to add short little lines in the darkest areas you see. So, so I'm going to zoom in to my leg here. And if you see, right, so there's some darker kind of channels here. Certainly it's darker in kind of the armpit and it's darker down here. It's also, the hair is longer here, so it's a little bit shaggier, which means we'll use longer lines. So let me start here. All right, so because the hair is a little bit longer here, I'm going to use a longer line. And I'm trying to follow, you know, where I see those dark areas. And then the areas that are lighter, you can either leave without any texture or with just kind of sparse texture, you know, a few lines here and there, but not with so many lines. I'm going to concentrate your texture lines in the darkest areas. And that's because you were drawing with a black pen on white paper. So light areas, we're going to leave the white of the paper. And then, so in addition to creating texture, we're also creating value and kind of, you know, shading, like this shaping, because of our texture, right? And on this back leg, I'm going to use a lot because it's much darker than that front leg. I'm going to use a lot of lines right next to each other to get that shadow. Okay, and then I'm going to move up here to the shorter hair. All right, so it's a little bit shorter up here, so I'm going to use some shorter lines. I'm still kind of trying to trace those dark kind of shadows. And I'm also, you know, I'm following the grain of the fur. Right? So I'm not going this way because the hair's not going that way. I'm going with the direction of the hair. Right? And then in the parts that are lightest, you know, maybe I'll add a few little kind of spaced out spots, but mostly I'm going to leave it. right? And then you zoom out. Look how nice and furry that looks. All right, let's take a look at the feathers. All right, so that's fur. Let's take a look at these feathers here. So certainly feathers, just like fur, come in many different shapes and sizes. I've got the feathers on the back of the neck are really very similar to the way I would do fur, because they're kind of long and wispy, kind of like hair. So I would do that in a similar way, right? Using those short lines. But then down here, these feathers are a little bit more perhaps the way you would draw scales. So I think this technique could apply to you if you're drawing fish or reptile scales as well, right? So I'm looking for the shape of that feather. The feathers are all pretty flat against the chest, but they form kind of a diamond shape. So I'm going to start at the top here, right? So there are these long feathers in the middle, and then, right, because they're kind of layered on top of each other, I'm going to start at the top row. And so I'm just doing these little triangles and kind of working my way down. And again, I want to keep these with the direction of the feathers in the pictures, right, which are kind of curving around the body. So I'm turning them as they turn around the body. And again, I can leave some spaces here for areas where it's lighter. So it's a little bit lighter down here, so maybe I'll add my feathers over here and just put a couple in here. All right, and it gets darker over here. And then these feathers kind of lay on top. Another helpful thing is so don't forget that you can change the width of your pen, right? So these feathers are very fine, so I might use a thinner pen to get those kind of wispy feathers. All right, so I am pretty well on my way here to adding texture. For today, you don't have to complete your whole animal. We will work on this next week as well. But I'd like you to get started on that texture, right? So if you haven't already, just gonna review what we've done so far, right? So we've found pictures of 2 or 3 animals. You've drawn 2 sketches of different ways to combine your animals into one fantastical creature. We use the oval method to lay out your animals on the page lightly in pencil, and then we drew a detailed contour line, kind of detailed outline around the outside of the animal. And now we're adding texture. And I want to remind you again that you should always be looking at your photos for a reference, right? It's really important that you're using this wealth of visual information you have in your pictures and applying it to your drawing. That is the best way to make something look realistic. It's hard to imagine exactly what something would look like in your brain. So look at it in real, in your pictures here. You've got them right here. So much information. All right. Good luck. Have a wonderful weekend. See you Monday.